Sometimes I can be a bit one-eyed about movies, but I did try to be fair with this one. So Cyclops is set in ancient Rome, where the last remaining Cyclops creature is terrifying the local populace, and even more unforgivable, it's eaten several citizens of Rome itself. So the Emperor Tiberius, played with great enthusiasm and gusto by the late great Eric Roberts, sends his best general Marcus Romulus to trap the creature and bring it back to Rome as a new addition to the gladiator games at the Colosseum. We're then treated to a bit of a plot involving a slave uprising a la Spartacus and some cool stop-motion animation and so on and so forth. This is a bit of a strange and endearing movie from a strange and less than endearing time, to say the least. So things looked pretty rough back in 2008. We'd just experienced the global financial crisis, and presumably Roger Corman, who produced this movie, probably thought the time was right for a movie about the fall of Rome, and at the time it was probably a pretty sound judgment on the current state of affairs. But if only Mr. Corman realised at the time that we'd probably look back on 2008 with a sense of nostalgia compared to all the chaos of the past decade. But I digress. The mid-2000s were an interesting time for film, I guess. Hollywood was seemingly enjoying a bit of a last hurrah before the troubled times of streaming, the plague, and a public bored with bread and circuses. So it sounds kind of like the fall of Rome, really. So Cyclops is basically Spartacus meets Gladiator meets Beowulf. Beowulf came out the year before and, of course, overwhelmed people with CGI at the time, but if you go back and have a look at it, Beowulf was quite underwhelming. So, did I like this movie? What do I think of it? Well, it's all fairly pedestrian in one sense, but as always, Roger Corman seems to keep things interesting. There's a fair bit of gore and silliness in this one. Probably the biggest thing this one has going for it is that it does seem to lean heavily on stop motion rather than CGI. There seems to be just a whisper of augmented CGI layered over the stop motion. So, as a result, it all holds up rather well some 17 years later, in my opinion. The Cyclops itself certainly looks a lot more convincing and impressive than other CGI creations of the time, like most of Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. Again, I'd encourage you to go back and look at that one if you're being overly critical of this movie. And as I said, the Cyclops itself does appear to be stop motion, augmented by some CGI, so it doesn't look too bad. So all in all, this is some good silly fun if you're a fan of stop motion. It'd make a pretty good double bill with basically anything Ray Harryhausen and mythical, like Jason and the Argonauts or Clash of the Titans. And ideally, this movie would be best accompanied by a Roman feast, I guess, but that's all too hard for me or for the average movie fan, so I'd recommend a roast pork with all the trimmings and a nice inexpensive Italian red, like a Nero d'Avola or a Montepulciano. If it's good enough for the Romans, it's good enough for you. So suffice to say, I do give Roger Corman's Cyclops a big thumbs up. I always enjoy stop motion over CGI, and this one seems to have it in spades. A lot of stop motion taken advantage of here. So I don't know if you've seen Cyclops as yet or not from 2008. If you have seen it, please let us know in the comments. Thanks for joining me here on Fulci Metal Jacket, where we talk about cinema on the outer fringes of the mainstream. We talk about horror, exploitation, sci-fi, fantasy, B-movies, the list goes on. I try to upload about once a week, and check out the Easter eggs in the description. I'll try and pop a trailer in there and maybe a link to where you can see the movie and any other information I can find. So I hope you'll join me next time and have a great day.